We'll talk now, though, about that match that Danny was working on last night. Newcastle, of course, have got themselves into the FA Cup quarter-finals. They hope to win a domestic trophy for the first time in about 69 years. It's quite incredible. Afterwards, Eddie Howe, you wouldn't be surprised to hear, was just saying it's the getting through that mattered.
It was a proper old-fashioned cup tie, really. I thought means everything to us. There's a lot of emotions during the game. That was really tough. I thought Blackburn played well. Made it very difficult for us to penetrate them and break them down. They were also a threat the other way. I thought our goalkeeper made a couple of really good saves in open play during the game, but as did theirs. So even contest, and we're delighted to get through.
I mean, Danny, you were there and you watched it at close quarters, but would winning the FA Cup, they're a long way off from doing that, I know that, but would winning the trophy take Newcastle's season from regressive to remarkable?
Pretty much. I mean, that would paper over a few cracks, but yeah, it would be an amazing achievement for them to get some trophy there, because that's what they're aiming for, really. You know, these owners didn't come in to be nearly there. They want to win trophies. Well, they said they're going to. So yeah, I think it would be a huge achievement for them and really set things up nicely for next season and give Eddie a bit of breathing space. I worry for them a little bit in the last couple of months watching Newcastle. They've lost that athleticism and energy and superb intensity that they played with for the majority of last season and at times this season, especially at home. They seem to create it better at home than they do away.
Why is that?
Well, I think ultimately it's down to a lack of strength and depth. I mean, a lot of those players have been flogged. A lot of those players have played a hell of a lot of minutes. And if you play the style that Eddie wants, you have to be physically very good. It's not a possession-based philosophy. It's a high-intensity, high-energy front-foot football that Eddie likes. And when there's a few players out of 11 who aren't quite with that or on board with it, it becomes very difficult for the rest to follow suit. And you kind of get caught in this in-between situation where you want to do it, and you're nearly there, but you become a bit easier to play against, which is what we've seen, hence the fact they've conceded a lot of goals. So, yeah, they need to get players fit and get that squad.
Do you think there's an issue with Guimaraes' athleticism?
Yes, absolutely. That's what will stop him being one of the best, because everything else in his game's superb. Yep. Great passer, technically gifted, but he's not a great athlete. I mean, he has... I feel for him, because I was the same, really. I had to be on top of my game to look a good player. Yep. And when I was below my best physically, I looked a bit lethargic and a bit sloppy at times. And he needs real athletes around him to shine. And normally they've got it with Joe Linton, Willock, Longstaff. Normally they surround him with amazing legs, so you see the best of him. But to be fair to Bruno, his durability in terms of always being available to play, he always turns up.
He's always there.
Yeah. So, his athleticism is only a problem when he doesn't have those around him to help him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still a crucial player for them. But if you're talking about the best midfielders in the world, that's what will stop him being classed as one of them.
Sure. I know why you're asking that, Simon, and Danny's answer is the perfect response to it. But you think that... I was watching that. I saw him some time ago up at St James's Park against Villa. Yeah. He was unbelievable. I mean, I thought, there's nothing this guy can't do. And yet, last night, on occasion, I look at him and I think he's a bit laboured.
And I saw that in the Liverpool game. Now, I mean, look, we're looking for high standards.
And the Arsenal.
Yeah, we're looking for high standards because we're expecting Newcastle to land in and amongst the elites. And you can make certain arguments about where Aston Villa are at this moment in time. But the point is that I look at Newcastle and think, again, the Eddie Howe argument rages, and I am in the same camp as Danny. I think he's got enough credit in the bank not to be reading too much about people criticising the job that he's doing and questioning his ability to be continuing in that job. And that's unfortunately the victim of success that you get. I don't think it's being put on him. In previous incarnations, when Pardew got them into the top half of the table, there was always this observation that the next expectation of the Newcastle fans is to win the league. I don't think the downward pressure on Eddie Howe will come from the fans. I think it will either come from the owners creating their own narrative or sections of the media that are writing his obituary because it's absolutely explicit that Newcastle should now be landing inside the top four season upon season because of their ownership model.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say, and as I said, I've been his biggest fan, Eddie, the way he conducts himself, the way he coaches the team, everything. And on occasion, when I've seen them and struggling in games, that yes, there's sometimes personnel change, but very rarely tactical change. Like I thought last night was screaming out with the way Blackburn set up to play two up, change it to play two up top, to occupy the three centre halves for Blackburn a little bit more, get some runs in behind and play off the front men rather than try and play through this condensed space. And on the I suppose on the counter to that, you could argue that people like Pep and Guardiola and Pep and Jurgen never change because they believe in what they're doing. So it's a catch-22. But I did think maybe last night there was a time where he could have changed it to try and switch the momentum in the game, but they got through. To be fair,
I mean, Simon, murmurings of discontent amongst certain sections of the Newcastle support. Are they valid?
I haven't heard it.
I don't know if that's true. If it's true, then I think they're a bit previous.
It simmers a bit.
Well, again, I don't know how true that is. You'll always find a dissenting voice if you seek it.
There was no murmurs in the 7,500 last night.
I mean, it's not the season that they anticipated. I also think that, again, I make the point, but, that your outcome is your outcome. I think they were unlucky in the Champions League.
Oh, desperately.
And, they can take a lot out of that Champions League campaign. And I think it's a learning curve this season. I think Eddie Howe needs to stabilise the ship a little bit and make sure that they do finish as near inside the top six as they possibly can. And then it's interesting to see what they'll do economically next season, because they've got Champions League money coming into this season's finances, which will adjust their finances in terms of FFP. And it'll be interesting to see if they go again with another 150 or a couple of £100 million, because if Newcastle are going to go in the direction that everyone expects them to, and Manda Staveley has suggested that they inevitably will, there's going to have to be a change in personnel, because there's players in there that have done a great job of them to get to this point, but the next level is the next level. Okay,
let us know what you think of our observations. Certainly Danny was there, Simon and I watched on from distance, but Newcastle got through. It got through on penalties. I'll put it out there this morning. Many of you back home last night, very, very late, having been there. Many of you will watched it, of course, hoping Newcastle got through, and they did. They're in the FA Cup quarter-finals. Can they go all the way and win a domestic trophy for the first time in almost 70 years? What is your perspective on where Newcastle are at this time under Eddie Howe? That would be the question I'll ask you. 03717 223344. Danny, there's Ruben. Bruno ran the second furthest distance this season, only beaten by James Ward-Prowse. It's unfair criticism to hear that this morning.
Athleticism.
No, covering distance isn't about athleticism and dynamism.
Yeah,
a lot of players cover a lot of distance, and I'm certainly not questioning his work rate.
Right,
his work ethic's tremendous, but there's some players are gifted with physical attributes that others aren't. I played with Gerrard, one of the most physically competent midfielders you'll ever see. It was so natural to him.
Yeah,
you look at Bellingham. He's just a beautiful athlete. It's a natural gift. Bruno hasn't got that, so he has to be on top of his game fitness-wise. Not the only one. There's loads of players like that.
All right.
So it's not about distance covered, and it's not about work ethic. His work ethic's great. It's just...
Yeah, there's Pete and Gateshead. Jim, stop rabble-rousing. We have a few malcontents, like every club. There is no outcry for Eddie's head. Good. Pete and Gateshead.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10. On AM, on DAB, via the TalkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. TalkSPORT.